And prayer we must, this very evening and always going forward. And I will pray in the language of heaven, because Chukwukika Biama is in control of all that we have been doing and will continue to do until Biafra is restored and all the suffering indigenous populations in the damnable zoological republic are set free. Chineke na nke pụrụ m ihe niile Chukwukika Biama onye na-efewe n'aja aha nsọ ya mma mgbe niile. Onye ọbụla na ya na-achị eluigwe n'ụwa na-agba akaebe ịhụnanya gị na ebere gị amara gị na ọmịiko gị ebe ndị gị na-eze ebede ngọzi. Anyị wee na-etoghị agbanyeghị atụmatụ ọjọọ niile nke ndị iro. Iwe nye anyị ndụ ala nke dị n'uwe n'ụbọchị nke taa. Anyị wee na-asị na ịja mma niile otu niile dịrị aha nsọ gị. Onye ọ bụ naanị aka ike niile na ọ gbadara aka ya. Anyị wee na-akpọku gị na-asị gị na nke ọma anyị ga-ekele gị, nke ọjọọ ma anyị kelee gị. Anyị wee na-aja gị mma, wee na-etoghị, wee na-asọpụrụ gị n'isi ụmụ gị niile bụ ndị ikwu ndị wee ezi oku mgbe a kpọrọ ha ka ha wee chekwaa ala nsọ gị bụ Biafra onye nwe m na Chineke na ihe n'ikwuru anyị nkwa na o mekataghị ka ndị iro wee were ala nsọ Biafra onye nwe m na Chineke na nke bi n'igwe. Agbanyeghị atụmatụ ọjọọ niile nke ndị iro ma ndị na-agba mgbagba ebe niile dị iche iche onye nwe m na Chineke nna ihere bụ nke ndị dị etu a n'ụbọchị nke taa. Anyị wee na-etoghị, wee na-asị onye nwe anyị na Chineke nna nke pụrụ m ihe niile, onye ọ bụ naanị ya na-azọpụta, onye ọ bụ naanị ya bụ okwu ya niile bụ ihe na amen. Anyị wee na-asị ezi ebube dị ngọzi na n'ụtụtụ na ịja mma na nsọpụrụ site n'ebighị ebi ma ruo n'ebighị ebi. Ise ise ise.
Welcome, my amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are connecting from. If you are connecting me from Africa, Asia, Europe, America, Australia, or Canada, I thank you very much for your contribution on the channel. Please go to the comment section, pull down your comments. Say it the way you feel it. Just express yourself. You can contradict if you want to do so, but do it constructively so that we can be able to understand from each other. Thank you so much for joining. Share the video, share it to family and friends, share it to all platforms, share so that people can hear our own opinion. Don't be silent. And while you are sharing, pray with our Sunnah BiafraNews Nnamdi Kanu on the 150 days prayer. We will continue. Pray as much as you can. Hear your opinion. Pray. That is why we can be able to stand steadfast so that the evil that they are bringing upon us cannot catch up with us. The only way to run away from the temptation and run away from the propaganda and all evil that are coming is by praying and standing firm in your work. Chukwukika Biama will continue to prosper every Biafran that is genuinely fighting for freedom. Chukwukika Biama will continue to strengthen us. We will never lose our faith and we will never lose our stand. We will continue to say it the way it is. It doesn't matter what they bring. We will continue to move forward. As you can see, they have already brought war to Biafra land. But what can we do? We cannot run away from our land. The only thing we have to do is to try as much as possible to protect ourselves and save as many lives as we can. That is why in this video, I want to admonish everybody in Biafra land as of now. They said they are doing their Golden Dawn exercise. You know what it is? From the name, you know what it is. Look at the name they gave to all the three exercises they are doing. The one they gave to the Southeast will tell you what they are planning. So, we have to stay safe. You have to stay safe. Control your temper at all time. You have to go out when it is needful to go out. When it is not needful to go out, stay at home. This is the time you have to apply that sit at home to save your own life. Nobody's going to come into your room and drag you. And by the special grace of Chukwukika Biama, the stray bullet will not come to your house and kill you. When you protect yourself the little you can, Chukwukika Biama by himself will now secure you and no harm will come to you. Stay away from anything that has to do with the election. You can see they have brought their war upon us once again. They have brought war upon us once again. You saw the video that is flying around, what they did to our veteran actor, Chinwetalago. You see the way they manhandle our veteran actor. They kidnapped him. The military, Nigerian Janjaweed, Nigerian military, Boko Haram military, kidnapped our veteran actor, Chinwetalago. You saw it on video. It was flying around everywhere. Chinwetalago did not commit any offense, only because he was wearing a regalia that had a picture on it, a picture of the sun. When has it become a crime to wear those colors he's wearing? When has it become a crime to wear a cloth that has sun in it? Where? When has that crime, when has it become a crime for somebody to dress in a certain way? When? But look at our veteran actor who dressed up normally, came out, he was going on his own way, he was stopped. In Biafra land, he was stopped. In Biafra land, he was manhandled and taken away, whisked away for committing no crime, only because of the way he dressed. Just the same thing they are doing to us, only because we are Biafrans. We are being killed and shot at. And people are keeping silent. These people have beaten the Biafrans down that so much that Biafrans are even they are even scared to take up their identity. They want to beat us down that we become scared of taking up our identity. You can see the people from the West calling themselves Oduduwa people openly, even in every address, even in the House of Assembly, calling themselves Oduduwa people. The Arewa people address themselves as Arewa, but the Biafrans are so scared to mention the word Biafra wherever they go. They are so scared to mention Biafra wherever they go. Some of them are even scared to dress like a Biafran. Some of them are afraid to dress like a Biafran. Instead, they prefer dressing like a Janjaweed. This is how they have beaten our mentality down. See what happened to Chiwetalago. When you see the reactions that are coming to what happened to Chiwetalago, you'll be surprised. Are these people really Igbos, or they are coming from another angle? You see people coming to blame Chiwetalago. Why is he wearing that? Why must he wear Biafran flag? Where do you have to wear Biafran flag? People who are Igbos, people who claim to be intelligent, in a community, in a place where you have freedom of worship, freedom to practice what you want to do, in a world of 21st century, you are telling somebody how he or she should dress. They are not even talking about the right of Chiwetalago to express himself. They are asking, why is he Chiwetalago? Why is Chiwetalago wearing it? Including their so Nollywood devilish people. What do they call? They call him Rochas or whatever they call the idiot. That is the leader of their Nollywood. Nollywood that have proscribed, Nollywood themselves, we are the first people that proscribed Igbo people. They were the first people that proscribed Biafrans, even before federal government proscribed Biafran. Nollywood proscribed Biafrans by giving us a name as ritualists. That is why everybody is looking at somebody from the southeastern part of Nigeria as a ritualist, as somebody who loves money more than anything. Go and watch their video. 99.9% of video they are making against the Southeast is against the Southeast. It doesn't promote the Southeast. 99.9 videos of the Nollywood industry are making is against the Southeast. They are coming out. Instead of defending their own person, the idiot is asking why he doesn't know the reason why he will be wearing Biafra flag. You don't know the reason why he's wearing Biafra flag. This is how they have divided us so much that we cannot have confidence to even defend our own self. We can't have confidence to express ourselves. How is it a crime for somebody to use a Biafran flag? How is it a crime for somebody to wear a Biafran color? How is it a crime? Instead of defending, up till now, Ohanese have not spoken up. The Southeastern elite, those who call themselves elite, have not spoken up about the matter. A man who has committed a crime, he was just going on his own way to go and meet the poor people and feed the poor. He was being arrested. And this is what Biafrans are facing. Those of them who the Janjaweed are paying are now so coward that they cannot be able to express themselves. A man who has stood up to express himself and say what he believes in, they want to kill him for what he believes in. And everybody's watching. And tomorrow you'll be asking, why are people angry? Why are people doing what they are doing? These are one of the reasons why people are doing what they're doing, because they are not allowed to express themselves. If Nigeria was truly a one Nigeria, if Nigeria was truly trying to reintegrate people and be one Nigeria, Biafran flag is supposed to be in their museum. Biafran flag is supposed to be something that is going to be celebrated even in Nigeria. Biafra flag is supposed to be in their Asorok. If Nigeria was to be a country that they wanted unity, Biafra flag is something that is supposed to be celebrated. The southeastern part of Nigeria is supposed to acknowledge that flag. That flag is supposed to be one of the things that will generate money for the government. Anything that has to do with Biafra is supposed to be celebrated. It's supposed to be celebrated in Nigeria if they meant well. But what do you see? they want to wipe away everything that has to do with Biafra, including removing the bite of Biafra in the map. That is how far they can go. Wiping away history. And you are asking, why are people angry? When you try to wipe away people's history from the map, they remove the bite of Biafra. A senator was asking about this in the Senate. Why are you removing the bite of Biafra from the map? Why are you clearing history? Tomorrow you ask me, why am I angry? Why are people angry? But you see the handwriting of what the government are doing. You are not saying anything. It is a shame. And for those of you who are asking, why is Chinwetalago wearing that thing he's wearing? Listen to his answer. Watch this video. You will hear his answer.
And you are now promoting insecurity. Please look for another clue for him.
See, no. I can wear this. My vehicle is parked at the center of our people.
No worry, that one.
Hold on. So, this is rising. This is sun. This is rising sun, not Biafra, not Eastern Security Network. Do you understand? So, with my education, I know areas to go, areas not to go. It would be better for you to be videoing all this. Your guy is talking. Your guy is talking. Your guy is talking. So let's listen to the facts. They know how to react to the facts. This is
the implication of this.
rising sun. Me, I believe that.
No, 30 minutes. So.
I was right.
Gather people.
Well, this is just civil dress.
Come this way.
I was buying bread, 10,000 naira bread, sharing the one.
Come this way.
No campaign, nothing. Sharing bread, 10,000 worth of bread. When they came, nobody was doing demonstration or carrying people along. If people who were hungry, I was giving them bread.
I tell you.
I was giving them bread.
Then deploy people.
Is it wrong to give to feed?
Maybe you don't understand the answer. The same question was asking, why is he wearing? What he was wearing is a sun. When is it a crime for someone to wear a clothes that has sun in it? The clothes was not written Biafra. It was not written IPOB. It was not written ESN. Just the colors and the flag and the sun that was drawn in it. That was why he was arrested. How does that amount to any disobedience to the law? And then somebody will be coming, even a Biafra will be asking, why is he wearing it? Why is he wearing it? That is how they have destroyed our brain. That Biafrans are so scared. Biafrans are so scared to even call themselves Igbos. Biafrans are so scared to call themselves Igbos. People who are Igbo, their father is Igbo, their mother is Igbo, everything about them is Igbo. Their name, some are even changing their name to answer to English name. Some are changing their name. They are so scared. They can't even come out the way they are. That is how they have beaten us. This is what the Janjaweed have pushed forward to the extent that people are scared to be whom they are. You see people being scared of calling themselves Ududua. Some are still shy to call themselves Ududua. Some are, but Arewa man will come out and call himself Arewa. Arewa. They say it even on national television. But you can never hear somebody addressing himself as a Biafran or Ududua in national television. Those politicians, they don't do it. This is how far they go. That was why the Asaba massacre that was just celebrated. I played the video yesterday, but the video couldn't be able to play. I don't know why the video stuck at the middle. I'm going to play that video back again for you about the Asaba massacre. Somebody was talking about Asaba massacre in the national television, but he was so scared to mention the key word in that Asaba massacre: the Igbos and Biafra. Those are the key words. He refused to mention those words until at the end of that very interview. That is how they have caged us. That very person that is answering that question, giving that story, is an Igbo man with Igbo name. Everything about him is Igbo. But while he was narrating, he refused to mention that those people who were killed in Asaba massacre were Igbos. Igbos were molded down. They didn't trust them. He refused to mention it until the end of the interview. Watch it again.
Months after the start of the Nigerian Civil War, federal troops of the Nigerian Army, 2nd Division, entered Asaba town en route to Biafra on October 5, 1967. Upon entering the town, the troops ransacked houses and killed hundreds of civilians who they claimed were Biafran sympathizers. In the days that followed, Asaba leaders summoned the townspeople to assemble on the morning of October 7th, hoping to end the violence through a show of support for one Nigeria. Hundreds of men, women, and children, many wearing the ceremonial aqua ocha, white attire, paraded along the main street, singing, dancing, and chanting, "One Nigeria." But at the junction, men and teenage boys were separated from women and young children and gathered in an open square at Obesowa village. The federal troops revealed machine guns and orders were given, reportedly by the second-in-command, Major Ibrahim Taiwo, to open fire. The gory tale of this atrocity, for which the Nigerian government has never shown remorse, has become a rallying point for the people of Asaba in present-day Delta State. As such, the city holds a 2-day commemoration every year to remember the thousands of lives lost in that horrific incident. Joining us now to discuss the Asaba massacre 54 years after and to tell us why that 2-day pogrom should never happen again is Chuck Nduka Eze. An indigene of Asaba, Nduka Eze is a lawyer, activist, and entrepreneur. He also represented Anyama community in Delta State at the Nigerian Human Rights Violations Investigation Commission, also known as the Oputa Panel, in 1999, where he testified on the genocide in Asaba during the Nigerian Civil War. Good morning, and thank you for joining us, Mr. Nduka Eze.
Oh, good morning.
Well, thank you for joining us. 54 years after the Asaba massacre, to be exactly 54 years tomorrow. So as someone from that part of the country who was affected one way or the other by the trauma, by the memory, by the spectacle of blood on the Niger, as one of our colleagues titled the book he wrote on that particular incident. How do you feel? And do you think that for the people of Asaba, for the people of that area, that the civil war had truly ended? And the memory of all those who lost their lives, that Nigeria has been able to, do something to make sure that they did not die in vain.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. This issue is one of the fundamental experiences for a lot of people. It has not actually been properly addressed in any responsible and responsive kind of manner. But for people of Asaba, despite the tremendous sacrifice and suffering that incident involved, they've always been Nigerians. In fact, sadly, it's actually because they were Nigerians that they found themselves in that position. Because for a lot of Asaba people, being on that side of the fence, Asaba was always within the federal territory, and in fact remained within the federal territory throughout the war. So the sad paradox of what you're dealing with was people who were actually Nigerians were corralled into the square by their fellow Nigerian sort of troops who were supposed to be actually protecting them, and assassinated. So it's something that I think every Nigerian should have cause for pause to think about very carefully. What does this mean about being a Nigerian? If it's possible to have your own soldiers round you up in a war that was allegedly a war of national unity. This war was intended to bring people together. It was intended to bring the other side, Biafra, that was seeking to move away because she felt rejected or because she felt unhappy. And this was a war of national unity. And then in a war of national unity, you actually round up Nigerians and execute them, then bury them in a mass grave. Now, on one side, there are all kinds of opinions about those sort of things when there's a crisis. But I think the aspect that troubles me most is, what do we as Nigerians do when we are confronted by these events? Because it's one thing for government to take a particular view on a strategic kind of basis, or perhaps a public policy basis. But what does the average Nigerian do when you hear that the fellow Nigerian or fellow Nigerians have been abused or badly treated. That has continued for me to be the challenge because we have to take positions, and all of us have a responsibility in building this country, into a place where we can all be proud, where we can live to our children with a degree of affection. Because if you look in every part of Nigeria today, you find different people having different reasons why they don't feel they belong. I think the Asaba massacre represents for many of us the startup, the beginning of that crisis of what we are. Because that was a situation where Nigerian troops decided it was okay to kill people who were singing One Nigeria. I think we've had echoes of that since then. So much as one can feel a sense of letdown regarding what the troops have done on that occasion, but we as Nigerians, what have we done to say that that's not okay? So that's the challenge of the annual sort of anniversary that we try to do. We are holding out the hope that one day we are going to build a space where, whether you're from Asaba, you're from Gombe, you're from Ijebu-Ode, is not really what makes you what you are. Much as that's your starting point, you should be looking to your country, as your identity. We're not there yet. And I believe without addressing these sort of issues, we can't really make substantial progress. But as far as our people are concerned, this is a fundamental regret and a fundamental experience they had, which they have a very dignified way of honoring. Every year we get together. We haven't always done it without some degree of official interference or official awkwardness. But that is gotten better with the years. But every year we get together and we have different ways of giving some substance to those lives. This year we decided that one great way to do that is to remember the suffering that Asaba women went through. Because as anybody who has studied issues surrounding crisis and war, people don't remember sufficiently that there are women in the background. The men can be warring and killing themselves, but people often forget what it means for the women. For this particular one, you can imagine a situation where I think literally all the male population then in the town, apart from those who managed to escape, had actually been killed. So you had women having to collect bodies, the ones they could find, dig graves, bury their children, bury their husbands, with all the trauma that involves. They went through that. You have women now having to become breadwinners. And it was actually very common just a few years after the war to find that you didn't really have a lot of men around in Asaba. So you had a lot of women. What has this meant to the Asaba women folk psychologically? Of course, in Nigeria, we tend not to study these issues on a serious basis. But like the Asaba of Asaba had said, we have not actually looked into what the cost of what happened to Asaba has been. And even Nigeria has not actually bothered to take a true account of what that event meant. Because if they do, and if we all do, because Nigerian government is us. Government is, to some extent, a representative of the people. And from time to time, some of us actually get in there, and we become what other people call government. But the point I'm trying to make is that until we can understand what it means for people to go through that sort of experience in circumstances where it appears others don't really care, the burden of building a country, can only be sustained when if something happens to you, for example, it means something to me. If something happens to Reuben, it means something to me. If something happens in Abuja, Gombe, it means something in Lagos. There's a sense in which that impunity with which the Asaba experience was visited has become the picture in many other sort of ways, following on from the war till today. So I think there's some sort of reshaping or refocusing that we all have to do. And we all have to go back to that Asaba and perhaps begin our journey again. Because on another funny historical level, I'm not sure, I don't know how many people actually realize that the story of Nigeria actually started from Asaba. Because the Royal Niger Company, which was the company that once owned the Southern Protectorate, actually started, her first headquarters was in Asaba. So in some respect, Asaba is the true capital of the space today called Nigeria. Now, the hopes, later on, the hopes of the leaders who fought and got independence was for a one Nigeria. How odd that that one Nigeria was actually destroyed in that very place where the journey began. So it seems to me that one hope I could hold out and one invitation I could hold out to my countrymen is that we should all go back to Asaba.
Right. Powerfully put. I have two questions. First of all, I think we do need some background. Not everybody would have read Emma Okocha's Blood on the Niger that you referred to earlier. What exactly happened? What is this grave historical injustice that you're referring to? Give us the details. And you also referred to the women of Asaba. The aftermath as well involved rapes, forced marriages, all kinds of horrors. Please go into detail about that. And what is the proper restitution that you would like to see from the government?
Right. Well, essentially, the background was that following the crisis that we now describe as the Nigerian Civil War, the federal troops were making their way to what became Biafra. And they got to Asaba, and I suppose they decided to station in Asaba for a few days. In the next days that followed, I suppose the first day, what we understood, the first day they arrived, there wasn't much by way of disturbance or issues. But the next day, they started harassing, killing people sporadically. The second day or the third day, the same thing continued. Fearing that this was now going to be a pattern of their presence, a meeting was held by the town elders. And they felt perhaps the federal troops do not understand that Asaba is actually within the federal territory, and that they're actually in Asaba because they had no fear that the federal troops were coming, that they had anything to be afraid of. They didn't think they had to escape to anywhere because they were part of Nigeria. So they said maybe we should have a demonstration of good faith. We should actually come out and show the federal troops that we are part of them as much as they are part of us. That why is this all happening? So I think, they discussed with the head of the 2nd Division, and it was decided that they should all come out to a place called Obosiwe Square. And in the tradition of Asaba people, they wear white. They wear white for colorful ceremonies. So they had actually dressed up in their white attires, some carrying some dancing things, and they were sort of moving from village to village, heading up to this square. I think it became rather apparent that this was no sort of simple dance, when, as they were moving, they could see that soldiers were going into other houses and essentially looking in and pushing people who perhaps did not come out, and essentially brutalizing them. So I suppose in the mind of this crowd that was moving, it became evident that all was not quite well. They got to the place. An elder, who actually was the father of late Mariam Babangida, had been chosen to deliver the welcome address. So he had his speech all written up, and they got there. They were there, the women came with them, and as soon as they all settled in place, to give a sense of the premeditated sort of aspect of what then transpired, machine guns had been set on one part of the square, facing where they were told to stand. So whereupon the men and women were now separated, the men essentially facing the place that the machine guns, had been set up. And before you knew it, as we understood it, I think it was Lieutenant Colonel Ibrahim Taiwo who was presiding on this occasion. And orders were given to shoot. And this mayhem began. Of course, like I said before, women witnessing this sort of thing. And even young boys, were sort of were killed. Then shallow graves were dug around the scene, and what appeared to be a burial by the soldiers took place. Some people survived because you can imagine the crowd as people were falling. Some people fell on them, some people were injured, they didn't actually die. So when the evening time came, a few that survived kind of slipped away and ran into the bush. But what was actually very moving was that there was a lot of cursing, people dying, when people are dying, there's a lot of mourning and cursing and all the rest of it. And some cursed the country that had so treated them. And I think Ima refers to it in his book as the curse of the dying man. So eventually they were buried. When the soldiers went away, some of these women, now returned to the scene and were looking for their husbands. The scene can only be imagined. And they took their husbands away. Those who could find their husbands took them away, buried them in whatever fashion they felt able. So that was the 7th of October. Of course, as I had explained earlier, there had been incidents on the 4th, the 5th and the 6th. Now, this was the culmination of the events we mark the 7th of October. We call it 7th of October massacre. But it's actually, like the Asaba said, the October massacres, because there were incidents on the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th. Following this sad, macabre, really, event, the federal troops of the 2nd Division now tried to cross over beyond Onitsha to get into Biafra, and they suffered a lot of setback. A lot of them were killed between that Onitsha and Asaba. And apparently almost half of the 2nd Division lost their men a few days following this sad tragedy. There wasn't much by way of publicity of this event, because I think the federal government at the time, clearly knowing how world opinion would react to this kind of carnage, there was a news blackout, a total news blackout. People didn't really know what had happened in Asaba. It took a number of, probably almost a week, for news to start filtering out. And there were protests as far as the UK and the US. But I think the government tried to manage that aspect of things. Following that, and I think I need to say this, even though it's troubling to many, the 2nd Division was led by our late president, Murtala Mohammed. His second in command was Lieutenant Colonel Taiwo. So, I suppose in the hearts of men, in the way we relate to our history, Murtala Mohammed remains a hero in this country. But we need to find a way of understanding that it's actually quite okay to say that somebody is good at this or is good at that, but he's done this one rather wrongly. So in I sometimes have to say this to people, that yes, Murtala occupies an interesting space in our affections, but his history had this rather sad junction. And I also do say to people that what we do matters, because history now records that Lieutenant Colonel Taiwo and Murtala Mohammed, our late president, were the only two people assassinated by their own soldiers. They were assassinated a few years later, when Murtala Mohammed was our president, and Lieutenant Colonel Taiwo was now the Kwara State governor. I'm sure one must wonder how it is that these two gentlemen who played such a central role in the events in Asaba met this tragic end. I think the country should reflect about what that means and why we should be extremely careful about the things we do.
Okay. I'm going to ask about the restitution you want, and I want to also add this. You have a personal story. Your mom, you told me, passed, was killed. Part of this. What was it like for you growing up without a mom, and you know the circumstance that led to the death of your mom?
Yes, it's extremely sad, as I'm sure it will be for everybody. My mom was only 27 years. She was a staff nurse, and she just came back from the UK with my dad. My dad was a nationalist and had fought for Nigerian independence. So when things were going rather badly in the country they all fought for, he felt he could not remain in the UK. So he came back with us. My mom, I was only 3. My brother was, I think, 4. I was 2, my brother was 3. And we came back to Nigeria. Sadly, Lagos wasn't that safe. And no part of the country actually was safe for Igbos. So my father, who was literally, a Lagosian and had his life in Lagos, was actually an action group, great practitioner, did not find himself feeling comfortable in Lagos. So we all sort of proceeded down to Asaba. In the interim, he was actually traveling between both sides because he was negotiating for both sides, trying to find some solution to what was going on in the country. But as the war started, for some reason, we had crossed over. My mom was with her father, who, incidentally, like I had mentioned to you before, there were actually some people that felt, no, this has nothing to do with us. We're Nigerians. Then there were those who were a little suspicious and felt, I'm not quite sure what would happen. Let me just get across. So my grandfather, on the other side, was a very keen Nigerian. Yeah, he was an action group politician and felt this war, Biafra, has nothing to do with us. So I think in the mayhem, my mom was there, and we were in my grandma's place, and we had to just get across. Then Asaba, things closed down in Asaba. So she was in Asaba. The circumstances of her death makes me rather proud, even though it was a sad loss. Because when the soldiers were misbehaving, because that's what it was absolute frightful misconduct, she took objection and spoke to them and said, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be protecting these people. I imagine that she was also very influenced by what I call our family tradition, because you introduced me as an activist. We're romantics, and we take positions about the things that we feel strongly about. So she spoke to them in that manner, and they killed her. And like I said before, she was only 27. So losing her was very painful, was very sad. You can't really describe those things. Words can't describe them. But I was raised in a loving family, without her support and the affection every child feels he's entitled to from his mom. But I had a fairly good upbringing. My father was very attentive and loving. But we've always looked back on that particular episode, you know, as a sacrifice for this country. But this country, our country, does not understand what sacrifice is. You know, so I put it there. I've also found myself not really having to play the victim role because I had to take on this matter on a professional basis. I was actually approached as an attorney to conduct the matter at the Oputa panel. So I really couldn't now address my own particular exposure on the matter, and I had to act as a professional. So it meant that over the years, I tended not to dwell or talk about my own personal loss, that I just took it on, you know, as an advocacy kind of issue. Now, you asked about restitution. That's a very
Unfortunately, you have to do that in 5 seconds.
Yes, that's
because we've run out of time.
That's a very interesting question. The restitution I seek is that all of us should take an interest in this matter. I'm not interested in any compensation, as our people would find it horrific to be offered money. You can't pay enough for the death of over 1,000 people. But we just want the country to learn and to benefit from the sacrifice of those people. I think there's a deeper conversation to be had.
Well, hopefully, Nigeria will develop the capacity to learn from all these tropes of memory and remembrance. The souls of the departed, you know, rest in peace. And we wish you all the best with the commemoration of the Asaba massacre.
That is the situation we find ourselves. And how long shall we continue to do this? How long shall we continue to allow people to change our identity and give us a name that is not ours? This is what our Supreme Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is preaching. This is the message our Supreme Mazi Nnamdi Kanu have brought, that everybody have embraced, that we should be whom we are. Self-determination, be ourselves, self-determination. We are asking for referendum. Let us decide where we want to be and what we want to be. Is it too much to ask? We are not asking for anybody's land. We are not trying to occupy anybody. We are not taking anything from anybody. We are not asking for your presidency. Neither are we asking for your whatever election. We are asking for our own legitimate right, self-determination through referendum. And now our Yoruba brothers are asking, the Middle Belters are also asking, why is it so difficult for these people who call themselves political elite to pursue this agenda and give us what we want, the masses? They are not there for us. They are there for their own self. The only man that is for us is our Supreme Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. That is why we will continue to follow him. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what they do. We will continue to pursue that agenda and follow every foundation that our Supreme Mazi Nnamdi Kanu have laid down until victory comes. May Chukwu Okike Abia will continue to prosper our Supreme Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. May Chukwu Okike Abia will continue to protect our Supreme Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Very soon he's going to be out, and he will join us. And no man born of a woman can stop him from coming out. Thank you so much for watching, wherever you are watching from. And remember this, please don't forget to share this video. Share the video to all platforms. Share it to family and friends. Let them hear our voice. Let them see this video and know the truth of the situation in the country of Nigeria. Thank you for watching, and remember this. Bye-bye. See you again.